But guys, I have a special something that I've been looking forward to for the longest time, and I think you guys out there will find it really, really cool. Mabuhay Squad. This cool thing that I've been looking forward to sharing with you is a meeting with BirdTricks. Yes guys, if you're new to the world of birds and YouTube bird videos, BirdTricks is this awesome duo, a husband and a wife, Ashley and Dave, who are professional bird trainers. Yes! And I had scheduled a consultation with them to talk to them about free flying, bird training, everything about birds, and about Ligaya, because if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I've been struggling on and off with the idea of free flying Ligaya outside. You know, maybe not here, but like just in general, flying her out. I would love for my African gray to experience, you know, the joy of just spreading her wings and flying far, and you know what I mean? Like, I feel like flight to birds is like running to dogs. It's just this joy you get when you see your dog running in the park. And I bet it's the same for watching your bird fly through the air, right? But of course, I have some concerns. I'm afraid Ligaya will just fly away and never come back to me. Right, Ligaya? I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna find out what I can do so I can decide whether I'm gonna free fly you or not. All right, guys, setting up here. Got my coffee. OMG, a baldation. Hey! Be sure to pick up the merch. Not so bald anymore though. Okay. Jamie and Dave are just setting up for this meeting. Aside from training birds professionally, they also do consultations where you can Skype with them and have meetings with them to ask them questions about possibly free flying or any training or bird related topics. Guys, these guys are the real deal. Jamie and Dave know their birds, and they offer a lot of great like books and stuff on their website, birdtricksstore.com. You'll hear about it, but trust me, I've got a ton of questions I'm gonna ask them about free flying, about Ligaya, all of this. Mabuhay Squad, let's do this. All right, guys, Ligaya obviously wanted to join in the meeting. She just flew to me. Okay, here, let's call them now. Okay, Mabuhay Squad, I'm currently connected to BirdTricks, and hope you guys enjoy this chat. Here we go. Dave, Jamie, are you guys there?
Hey there, how you doing?
Hey!
Awesome. Listen, I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedule, because I know you guys are always traveling, like seeing and helping birds around the world. Thank you so much for meeting with us and for meeting with my followers on YouTube, the Mabuhay Squad.
For sure,
Yeah,
we're
it's our
excited.
pleasure.
Yeah, okay, so I've got a bunch of questions. First, maybe would you guys like to briefly introduce yourselves? How long have you been training birds?
Yeah, so I mean, together we're looking at about 30 years collectively of bird training experience. I got into it. I'm a magician full time, so that's kind of my whole career path. You can see more of that if you just Google David Da Vinci, and that's my stage name. I've been doing magic my whole life. Magic, very, very young, and decided that I wanted to compete with a bird act. And so when I was 13, I started to travel around the country competing in magic competitions, and by the age of 15, won my first gold medal and wanted to add a parrot to the end. My parents always had one, and so I learned how to train it just through trial and error, and that was when BirdTricks was born. And then by the time I was 21, we got married, and so fast forward to today, we've been training birds for quite some time, both for our own show, but also for David Copperfield, for Ringling Brothers Circus, theme parks all over the world, and that's kind of what we do. And we help a lot of people individually with their specific problems. That's kind of our main staple.
And my start was just kind of marrying Dave. He's honestly been my mentor and still is to this day. So we train very similarly, but also differently as well. So we use the same concepts and techniques, but we might get there in a different route. And I'm more well known on YouTube and social media for taking on project birds. So I'll work with birds that other people or owners can't work with and they can't get anywhere with, and I will document it and show people how I do it on YouTube, and they get to follow along and see the transformation of that bird. So that's kind of my passion on my own. I love working with birds that maybe somebody else doesn't think there's any hope for.
Wow, that is incredible. Guys, it is so good to see two people working in a line of business that they're clearly passionate about.
Aw, thank you.
One of the main topics I wanted to tackle today was the whole thing of free flying. Now, on my daily vlogs, this channel, ever since getting Ligaya, I always had it in my head that I wanted to free fly my parrots. So I went on YouTube and I saw videos of people free flying their birds, and that's how I came across your channel, which, by the way, congratulations for hitting 100,000 subscribers recently. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I was set, and then somewhere down the line, a few people started commenting on my videos saying that, oh, are you sure you want to do that? African greys in particular tend to be the most difficult to train for free flying. People lose them the most. And then one of my veterinarians also said that he lost his African grey through free flying. It didn't discourage me really from doing it, but he said that he had lost his. So I kind of like held back on that idea. And then when I came across your video with your African greys flying, I was just like, okay, this is definitely possible. What do you guys think? And how would you address scares like losing birds and predators and that sort of thing? Because she looks like a pigeon maybe to a hawk.
Yeah.
And we do have hawks here in the Philippines, so.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's funny, when we first wanted to start free flying, we reached out to the free flight community and just said, what's the hardest bird to free fly? And they said an African grey. So we went out and got an African grey. And we thought, if we can do it with an African grey, we could probably do it with just about any species of parrot. And so we got Cressy, and we've been free flying her for 9 or 10 years now. And she is so much fun. I will say she's probably one of my most favorite to free fly because she does this celebratory scream in the air that sounds so crazy. And she's just so much fun to watch. She goes really, really fast. She can be fearless. She's gone up to wild birds and chased them off from the areas. She flies with our macaws. She keeps up with them. She's just a lot of fun, and she's our first free-flighted bird, so I'm pretty passionate about when it comes to grays, but I also understand what other people are saying because not only have people lost grays, but they've lost all species of parrots doing free flight. Maybe they see a video and think that it's just about taking their bird outside and they don't do any of the real necessary training. And we're all about training, so we don't just focus on bond or one side of things. We're kind of a fully encased training, and we've never trained two people the same way for free flight because your lifestyle and how you are and your personality and your relationship with your bird is not the same as the next person. And you may have a different learning style. And so we are two teachers that come at it from different ways when we coach our students how to do this. And we probably spend the most amount of time and end up like BFFs with all of our clients because we're talking to them every single day, coaching them through this. And it's a heck of a process. You know, you are going to bond with your bird like you never, ever imagined. You might think that you have a great relationship now, but this type of training for free flight is like, it'll just blow your mind. Even to just go watch it, it's one thing to see it online, but to experience it in person is literal magic.
With free flight in general, it's about understanding and managing your risk. And so having an African grey to free fly outside is one of your higher risks, in my opinion. And not only from the intelligence factor, but also just because the size, the speed, their ability to call you. You know, Cressy's recall is really good. So in other words, when we say Cressy, she'll fly to us almost instantly. One of our macaws, Tusa, is like that as well. So the recall is really good. But what I mean by calling to us is if and when she crashes. Now, this happens every time we go out for the first time in a long time. She thinks she has way more energy to keep up with the macaws and she falls short, literally. And so if she doesn't have that energy to come back to us, is she contact calling back and forth. And because she's such a smaller bird, and she's actually particularly a small African grey, it makes it more difficult in a higher risk, in my opinion, than a macaw. So for example, she could be 500 yards away trying to call us and we can't hear her. Where a macaw could be 500 yards away and you can hear them for another couple of miles. And so risk management with that size, plus like you mentioned, being the size of a pigeon, you have a lot more chance for seagulls to chase her, for hawks to chase. And we've had a seagull chase encounter where 13 seagulls ended up flocking. And we flew when there was no birds around. We looked forever. We thought we were doing everything perfectly. And we did the flight, and yeah, 13 seagulls ended up chasing her, trying to knock her into the water. And we were just on some private islands in the Bahamas and watched seagulls actually pick up chunks of chicken and devour it, right? So seagulls will eat anything. And so having an African gray is a high risk for outside. When you're looking at the whole thing of free flight and risk management, it's absolutely a higher risk. Can it be done? Yes. And we do it, but we also do it in places that are very few predators, and we fly her with our macaws because the macaws help minimize that risk, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's totally possible for you. You just have to always remember that it is about risk management. So choosing the right locations to fly, the time of day to fly. For instance, we never fly early in the morning when it's cooler out, because that's usually when birds of prey also want to hunt. So we know, we kind of know our predators and the areas, and we know when not to fly. So it's the same thing in the hot areas. You don't want to be flying at sunset, because that's another time where not only are those predators hunting, but also these guys are getting ready for bed. So it's more likely that you're gonna have a fly off and they're just gonna roost. So understanding just the natural behaviors of both the predators and your bird is gonna help you determine when to fly, where to fly, and for how long to fly. And just kind of, you know, we're probably some of the most picky flyers. We go out with other free flyers and they're like, woo, let's go fly at sunset. And I'm like, I'll watch. But we won't take our birds out at sunset.
I want to add one more thing to that with the whole, like, we're extra cautious. We are most cautious because these birds are not only our pets, but they are also, we perform with them, as I mentioned, in our magic and illusion shows as we tour around the US. Some of these birds have actually been to 20 plus countries. But because they're such a big part of our livelihood,
yeah,
we are extra careful. And because of that, you know, like, we work with and have flown with a lot of people that are just much more carefree. They can get away with it on some days, but for us, like, because it's such a huge part of our life, we aren't willing to risk by flying at the wrong times, wrong days, that type of thing.
For sure, definitely. Okay, so it does seem like you really have to be, well, for one thing, vigilant, but also you have to be picky as to where you free fly. So this leads on to my next question. What is the best place to free fly?
Ooh, it depends on your area.
And the bird's experience level too, because we kind of go by levels. We have a level 1 through 5, which is kind of a way for free flyers to communicate to each other and say, like, hey, my bird's a level 3, well, my bird's a level 1. You know that you may not be able to fly together at the same locations because one bird is more skilled than the other. So that's kind of a language we've developed to be able to talk to other free flyers and figure out who we can fly our birds with. So for example, a lot of level 1s are just flat, pretty much no wind, a very open area where almost anyone can get away with flying because there's nothing else to land on, there's no wind to push the bird away, that sort of thing. But to us, it would seem like a level 5 is the most fun to fly at, but it's actually a level 3. It's because of where the wind and terrain is. And so for me, I like the cliff sides where the wind is coming up and pushing them up the cliff, because now the birds can go and they can dive down, and with very little effort of just opening their wings, they can get pushed back up. So they have a lot more room to play, whereas at a level 1 with no wind, they're doing all the work of the flight. So
a good safe place to start free flying your parrot is if you have access to either like a sports stadium, like a football arena, or something with really tall walls, and you've got the 100 yards to be able to free fly. Now, that bird could crash anywhere within the arena. It's unlikely that an African gray is going to fly 300 plus feet up and over the wall of the arena and out, especially if you've done the other training proper. So once you've done all this foundational training, that would be a really good, relatively safe place to start your training. That being said, you still could have eagles and hawks. There was a show in Florida, I won't say the exact company that this happened for, but they used to release their pigeons at the end of a certain show every evening, and it only took a couple of days for the hawks to realize that every time the fireworks went, the pigeons were out, and there were pigeon pieces all over the park.
Oh no!
So you know those animals can be out all the time. In fact, we were free flying in Moab, Utah, and up on the cliffside was a base jump wingsuit pilot. And so we think it's a great day. There's no hawks out. And we get on the radio with the same channel as this base jumper, and he's like, hold on, guys, I'm not going to fly yet. I'm watching this bald eagle. Well, we'd been flying all morning, had no idea this bald eagle was up there. But because of a lot of the how-tos of what we what and why we fly the way we fly, we're able to avoid that eagle and other predators. But it's very important to just like realize what those dangers are. And like I said in the beginning, it's about risk management. So a sports arena is a great first place to try it. But there's a lot of work that has to take place long before you ever get to the arena or any outdoor spot.
And again, understanding the predators. So predators are very routine. So you would never want to go every day at noon to the same location because predators will catch on to that. So really thinking outside the box and not getting set on any specific routine is really, really important for flying.
Got it. So how do you guys say, if we needed to train Ligaya, would you guys have to travel, or do you have like a set of exercises in a book or something that you would send over to me? How does that work?
Are you offering to bring us that? Because I'm game.
We only do it when we fly out there.
Have you guys ever
We have to come in person.
Have you guys
Just
ever
kidding.
traveled to Asia?
It's honestly a healthy combination of both. What we found with working with students is that every single student gets to a wall. They hit a wall in training, and whatever it is, we usually need to come in person and see what the actual problem is, because normally what you will communicate to us that the problem is not what the actual problem is. So we kind of need to see it firsthand. This is something that happens with all of our students, but we do start off with just homework. It all starts with what you're feeding your bird, because keep in mind, once you start flying your bird outside, it's basically like an athlete, right? They are exercising, they're building muscle, they're getting an amazing shape. So now we need to feed them like athletes, and we want to make sure that you're only putting the very best food in your bird's body so that they can perform what you're asking. So we always start with diet and getting that right first. That's kind of the foundation that we build upon, and then we start working on skill set, training, recall. I try to show tidbits on my YouTube channel so people understand that there's so much that goes into it and how it's a different process for everyone, but we'll take you through all the skill levels, and we communicate with our students on a as needed basis. So if you're writing us every single day and you're just like, hey, I had 5 successful flights and then this one, she crashed, what do I do? We're right there to help you, because the whole idea of our free flight course is that we're there every step of the way so that we can keep you on the right path. I don't want you to go take your homework and then have some mess ups and be like, oh man, it's all going wrong. Now what do? I want to keep you on the right path the whole time so we never take that wrong turn.
How long will it take, could it take to get a bird from just a normal indoor free flying bird to say an outdoor free flying like bird? How long is that process of homework and training?
Depends a lot on the trainer, so it depends on you, your environment, it depends on your bird, it depends on the history you've had with the bird, it depends on the age of the bird. So in a perfect world, we start with a person with a brand new baby bird. That's the easiest. It gives you an ability to make some mistakes, and there's a window of opportunity where the bird is going to be most likely to return to you even if you make mistakes. And so that's where we generally start.
Mostly because it's working with nature. So you're teaching a bird to fly when it would naturally be learning to fly. So it's not going to be as easily discouraged as an older bird who may have already gotten hurt while flying, been clipped, and is scared of heights or whatever. You don't have to overcome any bad things. You're just building from the very beginning.
Building on a clean slate.
Yeah.
So that's about a 2 to 3 month process with a young bird. We've also done the same thing with an older bird with really amazing students. They crushed it. They were both police officers, and they were very like, oh, just tell us what to do, we'll go do it. And they went through every single step amazingly, and they had this bird that accidentally escaped from their house. The dog pushed the door open. They found the bird 5 days later, 40 miles away, and they came to us and said, look, we don't want that to happen again. We want to train our bird how to free fly. All their neighbors, their friends, their coworkers, everybody thought they were nuts. Well, those people were the most dedicated because they had lost their bird. They wanted to make sure that they could get it back. So I want to say too, like, one of the main reasons for free flying is teaching a bird how to fly has to be trained. It's not something that the bird's going to learn automatically in captivity in most cases. Oftentimes when they get loose, they fly off because they don't know how to descend. And so we work a lot on that, right? So that's kind of the small window. 2 months is about the least that you could expect to do it. We've had other clients, if you watch our story on Claudia in Hawaii, it was 3 trips to Hawaii, which was pretty rough. It was awesome. And it took about 9 to 12 months, and she's still somebody that we consult with 2 years later. So, and she's wanting to continue to grow it. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a long answer, but 2 to 9 months
It's
is kind of
always-
a...
So it's a long time.
Like I said, we've never trained the same two people the same, because Claudia, for example, she learned best by watching us implement the techniques. So that's why she had us come out so much, is she would just make huge amounts of progress when we actually came out in person, whereas other people are able to just take on the information and run with it. So
Yeah.
it really depends. We also worked with a cockatoo that took 9 months, and
that was the bird's skill level. The bird was not progressing as quickly as if it was a baby bird that was naturally learning to fly. So this adult bird was really struggling to build the muscle back up, and so it's just so many variables. But
And a lot of times with those adult birds, we're working more on breaking previous bad habits than we actually are on the flight training,
Lots.
if that makes sense. So that's why the process is so much longer with adult birds. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers it, but if you're ready to just like run with it, I think you could do it in 3 months.
Well, my bird is 7.5 months. Is that considered baby or not really, right? What is that? Is that an adult?
I would consider any bird under 1 year old to me is still a baby.
Okay.
Technically, it's not like she's still hand feeding, but she would be in the awesome window to start, especially if she's never been clipped.
Yeah, never been
because
clipped.
then you've already gone through the natural fledging where she's been able to test out her wings, and it looks like she knows how to use them.
Yeah, she's pretty good with them.
More about just teaching you the training concepts to get her to come to you when you call, and teaching her the proper skills.
I understand. This African gray looks so rewarding to be around. How old is this your gray again?
She's about 10.
Yeah, she's 10 years old now.
Amazing, excellent. Okay, so I have 2 more questions. Now, I know you guys travel a lot. You guys travel with your birds, right?
A lot of the time, yes.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is that to do? Because I also travel. I mean, I've decreased my traveling ever since getting a parrot. I'm also a performer, but I would love to take my bird with me and even incorporate her into the show somehow. Like, I'm sure that requires a bunch of permits. And do your birds ride in the luggage?
Ooh,
You want me to answer this?
Yeah, this is a long-winded answer because we do have so many. So every once in a while, we might just take one, but for the most part, we're traveling with all 9 of our parrots. So in that case, they don't come just with us in our luggage. They can go air cargo. But yeah, I'm gonna let you take this one and talk about pet passports.
So to rule this out real quickly, we've had issues where we sign off of a ship, we go through all the process, and the airline says, oh, you can only take 6 parrots on this flight. So the birds will be on multiple airlines to get where we're going. So those airlines are the hardest part of the equation because they're the most unpredictable.
They change their rules all the time.
So that being said, we when we're traveling domestically, we have a custom trailer that they all have their own cages. It's air conditioned, it's heated, it has a generator. They travel in that. When we're traveling internationally, there's so much to do. So from the U.S., and this changes day to day as well, but from the U.S., the basic thing is, let's say I'm flying into the Caribbean to join a cruise ship to perform for 3 months and come home. I would need a international health certificate issued by USDA. So you're going to be dealing with USDA and Fish and Wildlife. So the USDA would issue an international health certificate, and then they would issue an export permit. Then I would schedule an appointment to have them all checked out and let everybody know they're going to leave the country. Then I would meet with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department a year in advance and say, hey, I'm about to ship my birds. And so we got what's called a pet passport, which is multiple import, export. And they put it under what they classify as a circus permit, but it's basically, it allows multiple entries, where otherwise, if you were going to go to visit Canada, for example, you would need an import permit from Canada and an export permit from Canada to go back home, where our pet passport is good for both. You have to schedule an appointment both on exit of the country and re-entry of the other one. So as I'm leaving the U.S., I would need U.S. Fish and Wildlife to examine and also do my export permit, stamp all that, sign it, approve it. It's a lot of work, and then once we get out to the sea, they may change the rules. We've been out of the country for 6 months with our blue-throated macaw, and then all of a sudden we came home, they ripped up his CITES permit and said, rules changed, you can't leave again.
Wow, it really does sound like such an ordeal. Okay, so one thing that someone recommended to me then, okay, first of all, my parrot has her own caretaker, She's never alone. She's always out. And actually, we're building a farmhouse with a 3-story, 6-meter by 6-meter aviary just for my bird in the middle of the house. Super spoiled. Yeah. But do you recommend, like, let's say when I'm leaving, because I'm afraid that if I leave for a few days, she'll get depressed and start feather plucking. Should I get her a companion bird? What's your opinion on that? Because I heard maybe she might not like this companion bird and I might end up with 2 parrots that are demanding of my time. What do you guys do when you have to leave your birds behind?
Gosh,
Go for it.
we have been traveling with our birds forever. The best thing you can honestly do is just live your life normal, and if you are raising her in that environment, she's gonna adapt. The worst thing you can do is baby her to the point of never exposing her to those things. Do you know what I mean? Because then it's gonna be a crazy shock because she's never gonna have been used to it. The more adaptable you can make her, the healthier, more confident bird she's going to be. So, like Dave was saying, these guys can be naturally phobic. You want to be introducing one new thing a day, whether that's a person, that's a place, that's a thing. It needs to be constantly happening so that these guys are easily adaptable, so that they know when I give you this pen and show it to you, it's not going to freak her out. She's like, can it pet me? But so the best thing that I can say is just constantly keep that in your repertoire and do it all the time, and just think of how can I make my bird a more confident bird moving forward? Is it better to expose her to this or to shield her from it?
Another way to put it is that we call it being consistently inconsistent. So if you become predictable and have a pattern all the time, the moment that pattern changes, it can stress out your gray. And some other birds are susceptible to it as well, not all of them. But, for us, she does have other birds in the flock. So when we leave, we didn't take her with us on one of our big tours recently. And in fact, we just got back in the country this morning and she wasn't with us for the last 4 months. And so, but she's totally adapted and she has those other birds around her. So there is that plays a part.
Yeah, there is that. We also, we have different caretakers. So it's been my parents, it's been neighbors, it has been people that are hired to do so. And we just found out Cressy fell in love with our most recent one, who is our neighbor. It's pretty funny. Again, though, she's adapted to different people taking care of her. So she's not fazed at all by the fact that we're just gone one day and someone else is doing everything. So the more you can expose them to, the better. We always say, like, don't baby your baby bird, because that's really the time to make them more adaptable to life, because your life is going to be unpredictable. You can't keep to the same routine forever.
That makes me feel so much better, because every time I'm traveling for work to perform or to vlog a certain country, because we get invited to different countries to vlog, I'm thinking about my bird who's depressed and probably plucking all her feathers out, but I shouldn't. I should be in the train of thought of, like, she's young, I should expose her to this separation more often. And okay, so that makes me feel a lot better. Wow. And talk about different from what they're saying in the books. Like, if you get a parrot, you should not travel. It's not natural for them. You should not do this. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciate that advice. That's really great.
Aww, good. Yeah, I mean, I would take her places. I would take her, and I think I saw a video of yours where she was on a leash and you were taking her around with you.
Oh yeah.
That kind of stuff, that kind of exposure is amazing. It's literally part of our free play course. We're like, go expose your bird to life. Go expose it to sirens, to cars, to sounds of dogs, to people falling down, to everything, because they need to be exposed to that sort of stuff so they're not walking around like, oh my gosh, what was that?
Especially while she's young. The worst thing you can do is just keep her in a safe little bubble.
Right.
And you'll ruin her life. But if you take her out and expose her, like she's saying, to all this while she's young, she's like, oh, this is normal, this is life. And
Wow.
so she's not going to be as easily stressed later in life when things change, because they will change.
Yeah.
Okay, well, wow, this has all been great. So keep her out of routine as much as possible to enrich her life. I think this is fantastic. Talk about different from what the parrot books are saying. Hey, and speaking of parrot books, I know you guys have a lot on your website, birdtricks.com, how can people contact you in case anyone watching my vlogs want to contact you guys about training their birds. Most of our viewers are from the US. So maybe they can avail of your amazing services.
Yeah,
Awesome,
definitely. We have a website. It's birdtricksstore.com or birdtricks.com, and that's just kind of where we sell our parrot training materials. We sell everything from the pellets that we feed our own birds. I have a cookbook set where I show you how to make fresh food for your birds in the morning, and that's kind of what we stand for. With our birds, we keep them the healthiest we can. We sell natural parrot toys, actually made from island materials, so you probably know all about that with the oyster shells and the coconut husks and all the good stuff for them. So we're all about enrichment and keeping the best care that we can. And so yeah, they can contact us on our website. We do consultations. We just kind of do a little bit of everything. We even do fundraisers for parrot sanctuaries or rescues or any type of good cause. So we're a little bit of everything.
From workshops to tours to shows, we try to offer as much as we can to help people with their parrots, because at the end of the day, we realize that every person, if we can fix one person, they can save many birds. And birds are such a challenging pet, as you realize. You know, it's not like just owning a dog. It's a totally different dictionary of terms and things you need to learn to be able to work with it. So,
and obviously there's a lot of information out there and not a lot of it is correct. So we are really trying to push the good messages out there, because it's much easier to just do it right from the get-go than to undo all of the bad. Like, that is what we spend most of our time working with people on, is just, you know, accidentally they did things wrong from the get-go from poor advice. And so we want to just try to do as much as we can and reach as many people as we can so that everybody's just better off, and especially these birds, because they are super special animals. They're amazing, and they're going to most likely outlive us, so we want to give them the best chance.
Wow, this has been just mind-blowing to me. Thank you guys so much, and I wish you guys the best of luck. I'll be following your YouTube channel, and really, totally gracious for your time.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thanks for reaching out to us. We're excited, and we'll wait for your call on the in-home consult. We
Can't wait to come to the Philippines.
Most definitely. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Have a good night. All right, guys. Wow. Ligaya was so noisy through that whole meeting. She's like, you gotta take me out. It's that time. She just wanted to go outside. Ligaya, that was the most mind-blowing meeting I've ever had in a long time. Wow. Jamie and Dave are so knowledgeable, kind, enthusiastic, and just so informative, right? Okay, so one of the things that blew my mind, first of all, I think I've decided, yes, Ligaya can do this. Ligaya can free fly. Ligaya, I believe in you. But of course, I will need their help, if ever. And so Jamie and Dave and I will talk more about how I can make this happen. Like, maybe I can have them help me with training Ligaya to free fly. But I may need some support. I've been thinking, what if I started a GoFundMe page to essentially fund this whole free flight thing for Ligaya? Hi there. Random car saying hi. Is that something you guys would support and donate to? I mean, Ligaya is our bird, as in Mabuhay Squad's bird. Would you guys donate like $1 to something like that to have Ligaya free fly? And then, like, I guess towards the tail end maybe of the training session, Dave and Jamie would fly to the Philippines for that and work with Ligaya. Wouldn't that be such a cool thing, guys? Anyway, I've got to mull over the idea a little bit more and see how I can make this happen for you guys, because honestly, I would love nothing more than to see this bird fly, like, outside, you know what I mean? To fly, say, in the farm lot property in Cavite of our new house. I just think that would be so great. Now, yesterday I was sick, but that meeting just like perked me up. It removed my illness. I feel healed from that meeting with BirdTricks. I also find it hilarious that they saw the Speedos parody.
My biggest comedy video, I don't know if you guys have seen it, it's a Despacito parody. It's called I Wear Speedos.
Oh my gosh!
No way! Was that you? Oh my god!
That is so funny. Another thing that blew my mind with this meeting was the whole thing about routine. Now, in the world of parrot literature and online, the general consensus is that the birds are birds of habit, and you should put them in a predictable routine because, you know, in the wild, they wake up at the same time, they fly to like feeding grounds and eat in the morning at a certain time, and then, you know, they bathe at a certain time, they play and nap at a certain time, then they go to bed at the exact same time. They have a set schedule. So it's said, you know, in most literature that the parrots do the best when they're in a set routine. But then after talking to BirdTricks, I realized, you know, maybe that's not the best for them. Because first of all, they're not wild birds. They live with us. They live with people who have different schedules all the time. So, you know, yeah, routine would be great for them if they were wild birds, but they're not wild birds. We've taken them out of the wild and we're forcing them to live with us. So it's probably best to get the bird adapted to unpredictability and change so that, you know, they're more confident and well-rounded birds when they're older. That, I think, blew my mind because that goes against what I've read and seen on YouTube videos that say that, you know, you should keep your bird in routine. They're the best when under routine, and, you know, you shouldn't travel because they're one-person birds and will be depressed if you're not around. And some people have been commenting in my vlogs saying, you know, your bird's gonna be a feather plucker because you always travel. You know, she misses you and she'll die and all of this. Just really horrible stuff that made me feel bad for living, you know, my ordinary life of traveling and all of this. But just that really blew my mind. The whole idea of getting them adapted to an unpredictable schedule. Right, guys? I just want the best for you, Ligaya. I'm willing to give you the world. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Mabuhay squad, your godparents, agree and feel the same way. Now, RJ is probably gloating right now and laughing because what BirdTricks has been saying to me is something RJ's been saying to me since the beginning. That it's okay to travel. You gotta get the bird used to you traveling. And I always was like, no, you're not reading the bird books, you're not watching the YouTube videos that are all saying that, you know, we should stay, blah blah blah. But all along he was right. Okay, RJ, you were right. Happy. Hey guys, so I'm here with my mom, my dad, who's in there, and my brother. Hey, what's up? And guys, I figured it was time to take them to an awesome place. I think some of you guys might already guess where this awesome place is. Mabuhay Squad, I've taken them to